All right, so welcome to geometry. Today is May 12th. Like usual, try to have a paper and pencil for notes. Make sure to ask some questions and then attend office hours if you have any more questions. As always, let's do a stress check where we type in the box. How are you feeling?
Four.
So not in the ideal range, but hopefully as the day goes on, that gets a little bit better. I know in the mornings it can be hard, especially if you're tired, then you feel like your number is even higher than you'd like for it to be. So today what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and review finding the area of a trapezoid, and then we're going to also find the area of a circle. So we're going to look at this do now. So this is a do now for today. We're going to answer the question, which type of transformation is described by xy, which becomes x minus 4, y plus 4. So based on this information, let's look at what this means right here. So does this tell me that we're going to move 4 units left, right, up, or down? So go ahead and type it into the chat box. What do you think? Does this mean it's going to go up, down, left, or right? Oh, really good. So I saw that you wrote left. So right away, when looking at my options, I'm going to look for the one that says 4 units to the left. So this one says it. This one does not. So I know that right away I can cross this option out. This one says it. This one does not. So I know I can cross that one out. Now my next step would be this. This tells me that I move it how many units? Well, 8 units. Is it to the left, to the right, up, or down? Good, so it tells you 8 units up. So based on this, I automatically know that it is not this one because this one says down. And this one does say up, so it leaves me with option C. So when I go ahead, I make sure and answer this, I make sure to click answer C. So now let's look at this. So do you remember how to find the area of a trapezoid? And you get to just type the word yes or no. You don't need to tell me the exact formula. Kind of? Okay. So the first thing we're going to do, so in order to calculate this, we're going to do, this is the one where we did base 1 plus base 2 divided by 2, and then you multiply that by h. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and take our first base, add that to our second base, divide that by 2, and then we're going to multiply that by our height, which is 10. So what can I solve right away? Well, I know that 3.7 plus 10.9 is something I can do. So I'm going to go ahead and take my calculator. I'm going to add 3.7 plus 10.9. And that gives me 14.6 divided by 2 times 10. So then I go, what's 14.6 divided by 2? That should be 7.3. So yeah, 7.3. And then I multiply that by 10. And that gives me 73 as my answer. So the area is 73, but then I make sure to take the units and then I square it, because for area, it's units squared. All right, so today's lesson has to do with what's called, well, let's look at this problem first. So it says, Susan is installing a new drought-resistant lawn and wants to use the LA DWP rebate, so she needs to follow their guidelines for placing plants. She cannot have more than one plant for every 5 square feet. For each designated planter space, indicate whether she can plant greater than, equal to, or less than 4 plants. So she has a, there's a circular planter with a diameter of 8 feet, a square planter with a perimeter of 16 feet, triangular planter with a base of 8 feet and a height of 5 feet, and the rectangular planter with sides of 4 feet and 2 feet. So by looking at this right away, I know that it gives me enough information to figure out the area for each, okay? So we need to figure out whether these plants, what we need to figure out is whether for each type of planter, whether she can plant more than 4 plants, less than 4 plants, or exactly 4 plants. And this is a problem we'll come back to. I went too far. The problem we'll come back to after we look at this. So something we have yet to discuss is the area of a circle. So the area A of a circle, because we've talked about circumference before. We've talked about the distance around the circle, but we haven't considered, well, all of this, everything that's in red, how much space does that take up? And that's what you do, and that's when you find area. So the area A of a circle is a product, and right away I should hopefully remember that the word product means multiplying. And then I'll just write out the word because I know X can be a little bit confusing in math. Multiplication of pi and the square of the circle's radius r. So if you are taking notes, this is something key to write. I really need you to write this part where it's area of a circle is equal to it's equal to pi r squared, but we would write it as A is equal to pi r squared. That is how you find the radius of a circle. Okay. So now in order to find the area of a circle, we're going to practice using this circle. So right away, I write my formula. So it's A is equal to pi r squared. Okay. What I'm trying to find is my area. And I know that pi is equal to 3.14, or about 3.14. And then I go, what's r squared? So r is my radius, which is 7, and then squared. Now, if I remember PEMDAS, meaning parentheses, exponent, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, I always do exponents first. So I do 3.14, and then I know that 7 squared. So if I multiply 7, because remember that 7 squared means 7 times 7, that's equal to 49. So in my calculator, I'm going to go ahead and type in 3.14 times 49. And that gives me 153.86. And then I look at the units. In this case, you can't see the red, but the units are centimeters. And then because it's area, we put centimeters squared. Let's look at question 2. So for question 2, now our formula is A is equal to pi radius squared. But notice that here they don't give us the radius. They give us the diameter. But if we want radius, let me get in a different color so you can see. Radius is half of this, right? This is our radius. I know that half of 18 is 90. So in order to be able to do this, I need to find my radius. So I just put 9 feet because that's half of 18. So I go area is equal to pi, and pi is 3.14. And then radius squared, my radius is 9. So I go 9 squared. First thing I do is I do the 9 squared, and I know that that's 9 times 9. What's 9 times 9? 9 times 9 is 81. And then I type it into my calculator. So 81 times 3.14, and that's equal to 254.34 feet squared. All right, so one more time. Again, area is equal to pi r squared. This one does give me the radius. So I'm gonna write area equals 3.14, and then r squared is 10 squared. Area is equal to 3.14, and I know that 10 times 10 is equal to 100. And then if I go ahead and multiply these two together, that'll give me 314. And again, if I take the units, it is centimeters squared. Okay, so this is how we solve these two problems. Good job with that. And then let's look at this. Okay, so now let's go back to this one because this one might take us a bit. So again, it says Susan is installing a new drought-resistant lawn and wants to use the LADWP rebate, so she needs to follow their guidelines for placing plants. She cannot have more than one plant for every 5 square feet. For each design planter space, indicate whether she can plant greater than, equal to, or less than 4 plants. So first thing we're gonna do is for a circular planter, right? We needed to figure out what is the area. So let me see if I can change this up a bit to give us working space. All right, so if we're figuring out the circular planter, do you remember how to, so let's first write circular planter. What is the, how do we find the area for a circular planter? So meaning for a circle, and that's where you put plants. How would we find the area? So we have that so far. So the question is, what is our radius?
4.
Good, 4, because we cut that in half, 4 squared. So that gives me area is equal to 3.14, and then we know that this is 4 times 4. What's 4 times 4?
16.
Good, 16. So then we take 3.14 times 16 is equal to 50.24 feet squared. Now, the thing is that it does say she cannot have more than one plant for every 5 square feet. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to divide it by 5 because I'm trying to figure out how many plants can go into this planter. Okay, so I take 50.24 divided by 5, and that's going to give me 10.048. Can you have 10.048 plants? Does that make sense? Good. So because we divided it by 5, we got that. That means they can have 10 plants. She can have greater than 4 plants in a circular planter. Okay. Now we're going to do one more and then we're going to stop there. So a square planter, meaning a square planter, has a perimeter of 16 feet. Remember that perimeter is when you add up all the sides. Oh, that should be a square, not a rectangle looking thing. All right, so what we'll do, we found the circular planter with diameter of 8 feet. So if we have time next session, we'll come back to this problem. All right, so if you have any questions, there's office hours from 2 to 3 p.m. Make sure you complete the do now for today, the exit ticket, and then complete the CFA 3A if you haven't. And I don't think you have, so please make sure to complete it. And then do your do now for our next session. If you have any questions, I'm available for office hours on Wednesdays and Fridays from 2 to 3 p.m.